So, Lila is in grief and she hears an ethereal voice. The ethereal voice of Saraswati said, "My child, cover the king's dead body with flowers, then it will not decay, he will not leave the palace." Lila did so, yet she was not satisfied, and she felt like a wealthy man who had been tricked into poverty-stricken existence. She invoked goddess Saraswati, who appeared before her and said, "My child, why do you grieve? Sorrow, like water in mirage, is an illusion." Not the best of advice to somebody who's grief-stricken, is it? Lila asked her, "Pray tell me where my husband is." "Oh, Lila, there are 3 types of space. The psychological space, the physical space, and the infinite space of consciousness. Of these, the most subtle is the infinite space of consciousness." The infinite space of consciousness is something you can be aware of right now. Whatever you're aware of right at this moment is taking up space. I mean, space, we think of infinite space as space that goes on for a long time, but it's infinite in terms of the variety. It's variety, the variety of things that it can hold within it. So that space is, the infinite space of consciousness is actually an appreciation of an aspect of what we're experiencing right now, which is consciousness, which is that pure awareness. So really it is about the usual practice of being in the now, in the here and now, and being aware of awareness, being aware of consciousness, being aware of that by which we apprehend everything. By intense meditation on this infinite space of consciousness, you can see and experience the presence of one, like your husband, whose body is that infinite space, even though you do not see him here. So basically she's being asked to be aware of her essential being, which previously was described as the mahajiva, the great soul. That is the infinite space which exists in the middle when the finite intelligence travels from one place to another, for it is infinite. When the finite intelligence travels from one place to another. The finite intelligence here will be the attention. When the attention travels from one place to another, it's doing so within the infinite space. If you give up all thoughts, you will here and now attain to the realization of oneness with all. Normally, only he who has realized the utter non-existence of the universe can experience this, but you will do so by my grace. Vasistha continued. Lila began to meditate. Immediately she entered the highest state of consciousness, free from all distractions. And this is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. She was in the infinite space of consciousness. There she saw the king once again on a throne, surrounded by many kings who adored him, by many sages and holy men who chanted the Vedas, by many women and by armed forces. She saw them, but they did not see her, as one's thought forms are visible only to oneself, not to others. She saw that the king had a youthful body. She also saw in his court very many members of the court of King Padma. She wondered, are they all dead too? Again, by the grace of goddess Saraswati, Lila came back to her palace and saw her attendants asleep. She woke them and asked them to request the members of the royal court to assemble at once. Messengers were quickly dispatched to summon all, and very soon the royal court of King Padma was teeming with the ministers, sages, civil servants, relations and friends, seeing them all there, Lila rejoiced. She thought they must have died as well. So she went in. So what happened here was she went into this concentrated state, and she had a vision of her husband when he was young and alive with all his court, and she thinks she's seeing the spirit of her husband, and she thinks that all the court must be dead as well. So she comes out of her concentration and calls all the people of the court together,